So we're going to look at the question. Consider the equation x squared plus bx plus 16 equals 0. They've given us a quadratic equation, but they didn't tell us what b was. They're asking us to find a b so that the equation has one solution, and then find a b so that the equation has 0 solutions. Okay, so this is a discriminant question. If we've forgotten what the discriminant is, in the quadratic formula, we have two components to it. This is the quadratic formula. We use this formula to solve quadratic equations. So this formula, when I plug it in, will tell me what x's will make the equation equal 0, right? So it'll give us solutions to that problem. But we have to know what b is. B can be a bunch of things, so there can be many solutions to this problem. What I'm trying to do is find a b that makes it so that I have only one solution, or a b that I have 0 solutions. And in the quadratic formula, the part that lets me know how many solutions I'm going to have is this part under the radical. This part under the radical we call the discriminant. Because it separates how many solutions I possibly can have in this problem. So let's talk about it. There are numbers that can go here that would make this thing under the radical positive. There are numbers I can plug in here that would make this thing under the radical 0. And there are numbers I can plug in here that would make this thing under the radical negative. Depending on what I plug in, I know whether I'm going to have one solution, 2 solutions, or no solutions. If the thing under the radical is negative, I can't have a negative under a radical, right? Like if this, I solve b squared minus 4ac, and I get the square root of negative 4, well, that's not possible. There's nothing times itself that will give me a negative. So if I have a negative under radical, that'll give me no solution. I'm going to use that to answer this one. If I have a positive under the radical, right? Well, I can square root that. That's going to be plus or minus 2. So I'm going to have 2 solutions. These are going to be rational. If it was something that was, say, irrational, like 14, right? I would still have 2 solutions, right? But I would have something that's irrational. So it would be something like 3 point and a decimal that doesn't stop. But it's still 2 solutions. So if it's positive, I'm going to have 2 solutions. Sometimes it'll be rational, sometimes it won't be. But what if the thing under the radical is 0? Well, the square root of 0 is plus or minus 0. But plus or minus 0 is just 0. Because positive 0 is 0, and negative 0 is 0, because there's no positive or negative to 0. 0 is a neutral number. So I'm going to have whatever this is plus 0. There is no plus and minus, so it's just going to be one answer. So when thing under the radical is 0, I only have one solution. Right? Okay, so we know which part of the quadratic formula we're going to use. They're not asking us to solve. They just want us to tell us what b would make this the discriminant, to make b the discriminant something that has one solution and something that has 0 solutions. So that's our goal. So let's do it. Find a b so the equation has one solution. Well, one solution means my discriminant, b squared minus 4ac equals 0. Because if I have plus or minus 0, that's really just 0. So if b squared minus 4ac equals 0, I will have one solution. So this is what I'm trying to solve. And I know parts of it. I don't know b, that's what I'm finding. But I do know a, and I do know c. A is always the coefficient in front of x squared. How many x squareds do I have? One of them. C is always my constant, which is 16. I don't know b. And this is supposed to equal 0 because I have one solution. Well, this part I can do. 4 times 16 is 64. So this is b squared minus 64. That equals 0. And this is an equation that I can solve. I only have one variable, so get it by itself. I now have b squared equals 64. To eliminate a square, I square root. Square and square root cancel out. I'm now left with b equals positive or negative 8. So if b was 8 or negative 8, the discriminant would equal 0, which means I would have one solution. So those are my answers. B can be 8 or negative 8. Next one. Find a b so that the equation has 0 solutions. Well, it's the same exact equation, so I'm still using the discriminant, and I still know what a and c are because I didn't change the equation. So it's still b squared minus 4 times a times c, which is still b squared minus 64. But this time, I'm not trying to make the discriminant equal 0. I'm trying to make the discriminant negative. Right? Okay, well, wait a minute. If b squared minus 4ac equals 0, and b minus 64 equals 0 happen at 8, then I know if I plug 8 in here, I'm going to get 8 squared, which is 64, minus 64. That'll be 0. I don't want 0, I want a negative, which means I want a number smaller than 0, right? Because all my negative numbers are less than 0. So what can I plug in here to make this less than 0? Do they want every answer? No, they just want an answer. Well, I know 8's going to make it 0. 9 would make this 9 squared, which is 81, minus 64. 81 is bigger than 64, so that's going to be positive. So 9's not going to work. Can I try a number less than 8? Let's try 7. 7 squared would be 49. 49 minus 64, that would work. So if I tried 7, that would be 49 minus 64, which would equal 15, negative 15, right? Which is negative, so that would work. That would give me a b that's negative. What other numbers would work? Well, I say b equals 7 worked. I'm going to circle that because that's an answer. 6 can also work. 6 squared minus 64 would be 36 minus 64. Right? That's 2 shy of 30, so that's negative 28. Right? That's also negative. That would work also. Right? Well, pretty much any number below 8 would work. As a matter of fact, any number less than 8 but greater than negative 8 would work. Because negative 8 works to make it 0, and positive 8 makes it 0. So anything in between those numbers would make it negative. So find a number in between there, and that will be a b that worked. We chose 7. 6 also works. Any number that's less than 8 but greater than negative 8 will be your answer.